right in, this is optibotimus coming at you with another video review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Classic Collection of Bebop. Finally, our fearsome, foursome, lean green fighting machine has a couple bad guys to square off against, and Planet has elected to give us our bad guys for the first time in the form of Bebop and Rocksteady. Now, these guys have already gotten a lot of controversy attached to them and surrounding them, things like that, so obviously I will try and touch on some of that here in the actual review, while trying to stay as honest about the figure and how I feel about it, just, I guess in general. You come around here to the side, you see that the turtle motif kind of goes along the side. You do have that same open clamshell here, which kind of looks like ooze. It's kind of hard to see, but it's kind of oozy through the top bit. And it says, inspired by the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle animated series from 1988. And that's where people are having some problems, because both Bebop and Rocksteady really don't look like how they looked in the cartoon. Now, the Turtles were really inspired by that, but even they got a little bit of flack for how they looked. You come around here to the back, and you see all the current Classic Collection figures. You got the Turtles right here fighting Bebop and Rocksteady. Coming up to the top section, it says the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are back like never before, in collector quality figures featuring signature weapons and classic sewer cover bases. These perfect old-school cartoon recreations will leave you screaming cowabunga. Catapulted from indie comic origins to superstardom by the original MWS animated series, TMNT ran on air for nearly a decade and ranked #1 in ratings for an unprecedented 5 straight years. Then down here where it talks about Bebop and Rocksteady, it says, after Shredder's defeat by the Turtles, Shredder and the Krang, although it's not the Krang, he was just Krang, there wasn't a bunch of Krang. So Shredder and Krang devised 2 mutagen experiments that will destroy the Turtles. Bebop and Rocksteady, originally street thugs, volunteered for the experiments and as a result gained superior fighting abilities. The experiments transformed Bebop into a fearless mutant warhog and Rocksteady into a ferocious mutant rhino hungry for revenge. The Turtles better watch out for these mutants. And yeah, like I said, they are really kind of different looking than the actual cartoon, so that really has a lot of people kind of on the fence with these guys. So that's about it for the packaging, so I guess the only thing that we can do now is get him open and see how cool he actually is. Alright guys, so here we have Bebop opened up and out of its packaging, and totally honest, right up front, while I'm very happy to have Bebop and a Rocksteady figure, these are definite letdowns. First, starting things off, we're going to set him off to the side, and we're going to take a look at his display stand. Now, zooming in a little bit, I mean, at first initial glance, it's really not all that different. It's exactly the same molding. However, when you compare him to the original Turtles, you see a big difference here. Mostly in the fact that you can actually see everything. There's all this nice black wash throughout the entire grate or sewer cover look. There's also a little bit of black in the actual Teenage Mutant Ninja section. And then throughout the actual Turtle section here, you can see that along the edges there's a little bit of extra detail. This doesn't have that at all. And actually when you come around here, it almost looks like the plastic itself is a different color, and I don't know, just not nearly as good looking, honestly. It still has the same 2 pegs, so you don't lose anything. It's just there's a lot of extra details that the original one has that the new one really lacks. And that's basically the general problem with the figure. Yeah, he looks good, don't get me wrong. Now, he doesn't have the same cartoon look. Somebody I saw likened his appearance to how Bebop and Rocksteady looked in the old arcade game. And I do kind of agree with that. It does have that look, but they're really not designed to look like that. And if they are, I think that was a very bad decision when they made the original Turtles a whole lot more accurate to how they looked in the cartoon. These guys don't look a lot like their cartoon selves. First, looking at his accessory, in addition to the display stand, you do get his drill gun, which is very reminiscent to his vintage toy, and I do like that. That's a nice little homage there, but that's all he comes with for his accessories. As for the figure itself, this is what you're looking at, and it's disappointing. It really honestly is. I mean, there's a lot of molded detail in here. Number one, his face looks terrific. I mean, there's a lot of wrinkles. wrinkles. There's a little bit of paint scuff here. I don't mind that Bebop really as much as I mind Rocksteady. But that's a whole different video. Comparatively between the two, I think that Bebop is the better looking figure. But now one thing that does kind of bug me, if you look really close here, and zooming in so that you can actually see that, it really looks as if his paint for his hair doesn't go all the way down. So it looks like his scalp kind of comes up. That side's not too bad. That side's kind of sloppy, and you can really see that. He also doesn't have a ponytail, and honestly that kind of bugs me too, because that was one of his very signature looks. He had a ponytail staying up towards the top of him. I don't like how his turtle shells are kind of built into his shoulders, and I mean, when you look at it, you can lift it up a little bit. It looks like it's actually part of his vest. They were actually the shoulder strapped kind of thing, so again, it's little bits like that that just really take away from the figure. So you take away his ponytail, you take away this little bit here that was on the figure, and it, you know, I like that it's there, but attention to detail goes a long way, and it bugs me. It honestly does. Like I said, the face looks really good. You got his tusks and his nose ring right there. You come around here, the back, absolutely gorgeous sculpt on it. Sculpting wise, I think it looks pretty good. As I said, Bebop is probably my favorite of the two, and I do really dig the sculpt on it. You come around here to the lower legs, or just the legs themselves, and I mean, you got his pants and everything, and it's a little different than what it looked, or how it looked in the cartoon, so it's not too terribly bad. Now, where this figure, I don't want to say really falls short, because it only is really missing a few points of articulation, but the articulation is not as good as the turtles. That's just the way it is. The head, I can understand why the head would be a little bit more difficult to get a nicer range of motion, but you can see it looks a little bit left and right. You can sorta move it up and down, and obviously it rotates, so he's definitely turning his head like that to actually turn and look. I mean, like I said, you can slightly tilted, not much. The shoulders have a full range of motion. I do like how it's not hindered by these, but again, I guess you really wouldn't have been able to do that too terribly well if these were actually attached to the arm, but it's an annoyance still nonetheless. He does rotate at the shoulder as well, so a nice range of motion there. The upper part of the bicep also does rotate. He does have double jointed elbows, but you can see this lower one here, you really only get, keeping this completely straight, you only get a little motion with it. Most of the motion comes with the lower section. So personally, I think that joint could have been left off, and I'll touch on that here in a little bit. Then you come around here to the wrists. They rotate all the way around. They also move forward and back. So I do like that articulation that's there. He does have a torso cut, I guess, but you're not getting much. That's as much as you're doing. And then it really doesn't, I mean, it moves, but it doesn't really do much of anything. His thighs here, they move forward, back a little bit. They are on a ball joint, so that's how you get that to rotate. Unlike the turtles, who had that extra joint up there, but they also had a thigh cut. So removing that, I don't mind that all that much, because I thought that thigh cut was really kind of pointless anyhow. He does have double jointed knees, as you can see, so you can get it lifting up pretty good. Now, this is where we're coming to what I think is the biggest problem with this figure. The ankle articulation, it does rotate, but it doesn't have any forward and back motion at all. Now, if you remember with the turtles, they had individual figure articulation. These do not. That was something that they probably could have gotten away with removing. It doesn't bother me that Bebop and Rocksteady do not have that. But the actual ankle bend really is lacking. Now, with Bebop here, it's not so bad. You can get him to stand. But what's the point in putting like all this extra articulation in there if you can't bend the ankles at all? That's one thing that really does kind of bug me. As I said, Bebop here is a much better figure. We'll touch on Rocksteady in a future video, but for me, you really need to have that same level of articulation that the turtles do, at least in order to stay as good as the turtles. I mean, these are what collectors have always wanted: collector versions of the bad guys. And like I said, I'm thrilled that I have Bebop. I think he in general looks good, but compared to the Turtles, I think these bad guys have fallen short. Now, for a direct comparison, here is Bebop, and of course, here's my buddy Donatello. Now, people were complaining about the size. As you can see, the Turtles are a hair taller than Bebop. This doesn't bug me. Now, a lot of people are really complaining about the size. They want these guys to be bigger. If you watch the cartoon, which again, these are supposed to be inspired by, Bebop and Rocksteady were about the same size as the Turtles. It was only in that TMNT arcade game where Bebop and Rocksteady were bigger. I recognize a lot of people would probably like that, but scale-wise, this is an accurate representation of how they were in the cartoon, which again is what these are supposed to be inspired by. But as you can see with the Turtles, you do have the ankle bend forward and back. You also got the toes. That's something again that they could have, well, they don't really need toe articulation on here, but they also had the individual finger articulation. Now, when I was talking about the elbow here, I can understand why they wanted to cut back on some of the articulation in order to save cost. That makes total sense, and I absolutely understand that. However, if you want to save cost on it, eliminate this extra joint. I really don't think that they needed a double elbow. Even, I don't know, I mean, the knees, I guess, are okay, but for me, you could have eliminated the extra elbow joint, and maybe even well, wait a minute, the whole thing. Okay, so this whole thing also rotates. So he rotates at the upper part here. I mean, this whole section, you can see, is spinning around. So I don't know why they need that at all either. So eliminate that and give them some ankle pivot. That was so unfortunate that they cut that out. I really dislike that. But yeah, so here you have Donatello and of course Bebop. Now, bottom line is I absolutely still will recommend picking up these figures all day long. The reason behind it is because they are Bebop and Rocksteady. And despite the fact that they are not as good as the Turtles, they're still Bebop and Rocksteady. I do think of the two that Bebop is probably my favorite in terms of the look. I think Rocksteady gets a little bit more crazy. But Bebop and Rocksteady are essential characters in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise, and I'm thrilled that we got them. I also understand that Playmates wanted to do Bebop and Rocksteady because they haven't done them in a while. But I really think that these guys need to sell phenomenally in order to get figures like Shredder, April, or Splinter. We already know that the next group of figures that we're getting are the original movie versions of the Turtles. So, beyond that, we don't know what we're getting. And we really do need these figures to sell well to have the line continue. So for me, that's the biggest reason to pick these up. If you're fans of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon series, Bebop and Rocksteady are must-haves. And if they sell well, the line will obviously continue. I just really hope that Playmates takes a look at this and sees how collectors really are reacting to these figures. And in doing so, hope they go back and make sure that all that same articulation is there. Once you set a standard like you did with the Turtles that they gave to us initially, I think a lot of people were expecting that same kind of attention to detail with subsequent figures. And Bebop and Rocksteady definitely did not get that same treatment. So hopefully if they continue forward, at least with extra characters such as April, Shredder, and Splinter, hopefully they don't skimp on any of the articulation. These guys are still nice, and like I said, well worth picking up. The, I guess, unfortunate aspect is that they are Toys R Us only exclusives. Now, the label or the packaging doesn't say that, but Playmates has said that the classic retro collection figures are only at Toys R Us. So you're not going to find these at Walmart or Target or anything like that. You can pick them up on places like Big Bad Toy Store, but actual brick and mortar retail stores, Toys R Us is it. So unfortunately, that also means that they're a little bit expensive. And at $19.99, I really think that we should get a little bit more for the figures when $19.99 gave us the Turtles. So I guess my expectations went sky high, I guess, with those four absolutely awesome toys. But if you can't find these at Toys R Us, like I said, they are available at Big Bad Toy Store. So if you are interested in that route, go ahead and click on the link down in the video description. You'll go there and you can pick these guys up for yourself. But beyond that, guys, that's about it. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been Optibotimus. Keep in touch with me. Find out recent purchases as well as all upcoming video reviews all at facebook.com/teambotimus, and follow me over on Twitter at twitter.com/Optibotimus. And until next time, I'll talk to you later.